2:30 in the morning on November 21, 2006. You're watching a surveillance monitor at the Sheraton Hotel in Chicago's downtown Loop. The lobby is quiet. The Model United Nations conference that has filled this hotel with over 1,200 college students from across the country is winding down, its final night of parties and emergency committee sessions bleeding into the early hours of Thanksgiving week. A young man walks into the frame. Red hair, freckles. He moves through the lobby and out the back exit of the hotel. He doesn't appear to be intoxicated. He doesn't appear distressed. He looks like exactly what he is, a 19-year-old heading back to his hotel room after a late meeting. His hotel is a 10-minute walk away. The route is well lit. It's downtown Chicago, heavily trafficked even at this hour. Outdoor security cameras cover every block of the route. None of them record Jesse Ross. He walks out of that frame and out of the world entirely. Jesse Warren Ross was not the kind of person you expected to disappear. Born and raised in Belton, Missouri, he was the kind of young man that everyone in his life described the same way: driven, enthusiastic, genuine. He always let his mother know where he was, what he was doing, and when to expect him home. At the University of Missouri-Kansas City, he was a sophomore communications major with a plan. He loved music. He loved radio. He had landed an unpaid internship at Kansas City station 95.7 The Vibe, a dream placement for a kid who wanted to work in broadcasting, and performed so well that he was promoted to a paid on-air position. His radio nickname was Opie, as in Opie Cunningham from The Andy Griffith Show, a name that fit his red hair and open, mischievous personality. For his segments, Jesse would broadcast from random points throughout the city, and listeners would call in and try to guess his location. He had packed some of his music mixes in his bag for the Chicago trip, hoping to network. He was that kind of person, always working, always building towards something, always with his eye on what came next. On November 18, 2006, he left for Chicago with 13 other UMKC students and a faculty sponsor for the Model United Nations conference. He called his mother on November 20th just to let her know he was having a blast. He promised to call the next day when the group loaded the vans for the drive home. That call never came. The final evening of the conference included parties and a late-night mock emergency security council meeting that ran into the early hours of November 21st. Jesse attended. At approximately 2:30 a.m., surveillance cameras captured him walking out of the building. He did not appear intoxicated. His hotel, the Sheraton Chicago Hotel and Towers, was a 10-minute walk away. The walk was well lit and monitored by cameras, but none of the cameras recorded Ross. He simply stopped existing between one camera and the next. Several hours would pass before anyone realized Jesse was missing. The conference was wrapping up. Students were loading vans. It was Thanksgiving week. Don Ross had told his son to call when the group was ready to leave. Instead of Jesse, it was one of the sponsors who called to say that Jesse was missing. Don Ross traveled to Chicago immediately. The family launched their own search. Chicago police investigated. There has been no activity on Jesse's credit cards or his cell phone since he disappeared into the Chicago night. No body has ever been recovered. No personal items have been found. I definitely have a lot of sympathy for the Chicago police on this case because they were handed an investigator's nightmare. You have this individual go missing on the last day of a conference, and the conference wraps up before he's even reported missing. You have 1,200 students in attendance, very few of whom are local to the area, who all immediately scatter by train, by plane, by automobile, and it's Thanksgiving weekend. Within hours of Jess's disappearance, 1,200 potential witnesses had dispersed across the entire country. One police theory is that Jesse had been drinking, wandered toward the Chicago River, and accidentally fell in. No body has ever been recovered from the river. No clothing, no personal items, nothing. Jess's family believes it's a possibility that after he left the meeting room, he went out into the city with his CDs of music mixes, looking for some sort of opportunity. Jesse was entrepreneurial, always networking. But his phone went silent. His credit cards went silent. No one in Chicago ever reported meeting him. There was no way imaginable to anyone who knew him that Jesse could have committed suicide, or wanted to walk away from the life he was living. Jesse had just been promoted to a paid on-air position. He was going home for Thanksgiving. He had called his mother the night before to tell her he was having a great time. The case remains open. Jesse has been missing for nearly 2 decades. The Jesse Ross case is behaviorally distinctive from almost every other disappearance on this channel, and understanding why requires looking carefully at what the surveillance footage actually tells us versus what it doesn't. What the footage shows. A composed, apparently sober young man leaving a hotel at 2:30 in the morning to make a 10-minute walk he had made before. No distress, no urgency, no indication of anything wrong. What the footage doesn't show. Anything that happened after he left the frame. The gap between those two facts, a calm departure and a total disappearance, is where behavioral analysis has to work hardest. The Chicago River theory represents what investigators call a low-agency disappearance model, the assumption that Jess's disappearance was accidental, the product of disorientation, alcohol, and the physical proximity of the river. This model is statistically well supported. In the area around the Sheridan, male college students had been the subject of several similar disappearances. The pattern of young men disappearing near bodies of water in the Midwest during this era is the foundation of the smiley face killer theory, which posits that a serial predator has been targeting young men in college towns and staging their deaths as accidents. The behavioral evidence against the low-agency model is the surveillance footage itself. Jesse does not appear impaired. He is moving purposefully. He knows where he is going. The family's theory, that Jesse left to network, to find someone in Chicago's music scene who might be interested in his mixes, represents a high-agency disappearance model. The assumption that Jesse made a choice to go somewhere other than his hotel. This model is behaviorally consistent with who Jesse was: entrepreneurial, spontaneous, always looking for the next opportunity. The music mixes in his bag suggest he was thinking about networking even that night. The behavioral detail that resists both models is the absolute silence that followed. No phone, no credit cards, no contact with anyone he knew. High-agency disappearances. People who choose to start over, who walk away from their lives, almost always produce some trace. A cash withdrawal, a contact with a stranger, a sighting somewhere. Jesse produced nothing. Don and Donna Ross say they will never give up trying to learn the truth about what happened to their son. Jesse Ross called his mother the night before he disappeared to tell her he was having a blast. He promised to call again the next day. He was 19 years old. He was going home for Thanksgiving. The case is still open.